Welcome to the Deeper Thinking podcast. Somewhere between the raw and the cooked, culture takes form. It's not just a matter of temperature, it's a grammar, a hinge, a threshold. Every flame, every ferment, every flash freeze quietly says what counts as nature and what counts as culture. This essay follows that hinge. Through ancestral kitchens and algorithmic menus, ghost kitchens and rooftop jars, metadata and memory. The stories you'll hear are made of composites. The pitmaster, the fermenter, the coder, they are not drawn from a single life. But the forces shaping their worlds, carbon audits, cold chain logistics, patented microbes, the politics of taste, are entirely real. A lick of smoke rises from the hibachi and coils through evening chatter. Within that simple curl, something ancient occurs again. The exact moment raw becomes cooked, when nature transforms into culture as subtly as sound shapes itself into speech. Anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss argued that this seemingly basic transition carries profound meaning. Every sizzle, he claimed, is like a word in a hidden language. Humans have always used fire to announce our place in nature, whether we coexist with it or strive to master it. The Bororo hunter roasting meat on an open flame, and the Parisian chef carefully sautéing with copper pans, though separated by geography and time, are speaking the same fundamental language. Structuralism, Lévi-Strauss's approach, reveals these connections by focusing on pairs of opposites, raw versus cooked, nature versus culture, fat simplicity versus complexity, highlighting how meaning emerges through contrasts. Yet modern technology complicates this neat pairing. Methods like sous vide cooking blur the traditional lines of temperature, while fermentation plays with the idea of freshness itself. Flash-frozen sashimi now sits at an ambiguous crossroads, both raw and preserved simultaneously. Each new culinary innovation exposes the invisible structures behind our eating habits, showing us how food acts as a subtle but powerful code. Today, digital menus offering flame-grilled or slow-cooked items tap into ancient instincts, translating traditional ideas into data points. Labels like organic or imported, rare or well-done, authentic or fusion aren't just about preference. They're moral and cultural choices quietly guided by marketing and economic forces. Every menu we browse now contains hidden messages about cost, climate, and identity. This coded language is not neutral. It benefits some and disadvantages others, creating hidden costs and quiet injustices. When the boundary between raw and cooked becomes monetized, such as in supermarket kiosks offering restaurant-style dishes, appetite turns into profit. Still, there remains something deeply human in cooking itself. A skilled pitmaster doesn't rely solely on technology, but listens to the sound of meat sizzling, trusting senses honed over generations. This human skill persists even when corporations engineer foods to standardize taste or speed up production. The sensory joy of biting into a crunchy fermented cabbage leaf can't be fully replicated by laboratory shortcuts. Structuralism reminds us to notice these moments, urging us to pay attention to the subtle threshold where one state transforms into another. For it is precisely at that threshold, between raw and cooked, natural and cultural, simple and complex, that we continually define what it means to be human. Mastery of cooking, even in the age of automation, retains a fundamental human vulnerability. Consider the supermarket kiosks promising chef-style dishes at the push of a button. Behind their effortless appearance lie algorithms meticulously engineered to optimize profit, using engagement metrics rather than culinary intuition. Yet even in this technology-driven system, the tangible skill of cooking endures. A pitmaster still gauges readiness by the hiss of melting fat and the texture of meat beneath fingertips, skills passed down through generations, stubbornly resistant to automation. Such physical gestures remind us that certain thresholds remain sensory and deeply human. Take fermentation, an ancient technique now subjected to rapid scientific acceleration. Labs engineer yeast strains to achieve faster, more consistent results, aiming to deliver traditional flavors efficiently and profitably. But even advanced biotechnology can't fully replicate the nuanced experience of tasting freshly fermented cabbage, its crunch and tang, shaped by time, microbes, and human judgment. The binary between natural and engineered persists like an invisible watermark. Today, that watermark can be traced through carbon audits, patent laws, and supply chain records, reminding us that every innovation has hidden consequences. environmental, economic, and ethical. This evolving binary reveals another tension, the struggle between innovation and tradition. Innovations like lab-grown meat or engineered microbes are touted as solutions to climate change or food scarcity. Yet beneath these narratives, power shifts quietly. Microbes that once belonged to communities become proprietary strains, patented and monetized, turning shared knowledge into exclusive commodities. This trend echoes historical patterns where colonial trade labelled certain foods primitive or progressive, reinforcing inequalities. Today's intellectual property laws continue this legacy, subtly reshaping food traditions into marketable assets. Still, the primal act of cooking continues to resist complete commodification. Whether through the traditional methods of fermentation or the carefully honed instincts of pitmasters, cooking remains a profound act of cultural storytelling. Structuralism doesn't offer us a clear winner in the tension between innovation and tradition. Instead, it urges awareness of the subtle intersections where culture is continuously renegotiated. As new methods emerge, from cultured meat to solar-powered refrigeration, structuralism asks us to pay close attention. Who shapes these choices? Who profits from them? And who quietly pays the cost? Today, the boundary between raw and cooked is increasingly managed not by flame, but by data. Apps and algorithms now track our preferences. Each click, each order, each lingering glance at a menu translated into data points. These recommendation engines sort foods like sashimi, slow-smoked brisket, or cold brew coffee into clusters designed to anticipate our desires, quietly shaping our appetites without us fully realizing it. Claude Lévi-Strauss once argued myths function like languages. He couldn't have foreseen how digital technologies would weaponize these myths, converting culinary stories into continual experiments aimed at maximizing consumer engagement and profit. Amidst this technological shift, new ethical concerns surface. Ghost kitchens, hidden away from public view, efficiently produce food stripped of place and personal connection. Lab-grown meats and patented yeasts promise speed, uniformity, and efficiency, but each convenience comes with trade-offs. Behind the scenes, immense refrigeration networks quietly consume significant energy, accounting for approximately 15% of global food emissions. This hidden carbon cost remains largely unseen, masked behind seamless delivery apps and refrigerated displays, promising constant freshness. Yet, even within this seemingly automated landscape, human ingenuity and values persist. In suburban Brisbane, a kombucha brewer guides rather than commands microbes, framing her work as a partnership with nature rather than domination over it. Her approach integrates technology, solar-powered refrigeration, live-streamed fermentation data, with a deeper commitment to sustainability and community. However, even her barrels attract interest from venture capitalists seeking proprietary control, highlighting how quickly communal craft risks being captured as corporate property. Meanwhile, new technologies aim to blur culinary boundaries even further. Virtual dining experiments allow diners wearing headsets to experience digitally enhanced flavors, textures, and aromas without actual food. Such simulations promise reduced environmental impact, but they also risk disconnecting pleasure from reality and effort from reward. Ethical questions multiply. If we erase the connection between food and its origins, what happens to our awareness of labor, environmental impact, or community ties? Structuralism in this context becomes more vital than ever as a tool to help us recognize the hidden relationships and ethical complexities beneath our meals. It encourages us to ask who benefits from the blurring or reinforcing of these boundaries, prompting deeper reflection on how our choices echo through broader social and ecological systems. Ultimately, structuralism doesn't provide easy answers, but it guides us toward better questions, prompting us to pause and reflect. Who decides what we eat, and who pays the hidden price? Structuralism reveals itself vividly through real-world scenarios, clarifying how abstract theories play out in daily life. Consider Selena Vargas, a pitmaster at a charity cook-off in Houston during a record-breaking heatwave. Equipped with a high-tech pellet smoker, controlled by smartphone algorithms, she carefully monitors temperature curves and timing predictions, optimizing her cooking for both flavor and carbon efficiency. Suddenly, the city's electrical grid falters, disconnecting her smoker from its sophisticated digital controls. At this unexpected threshold, Selena relies on ancestral knowledge, listening to the crackle of bark, feeling the texture of rendered fat, judging readiness through sensory experience rather than data. She improvises, using mesquite logs traditionally seen as less environmentally friendly but immediately available. Her quick thinking and hands-on skill save the meal despite doubling the carbon footprint she'd aimed to minimize. This scene encapsulates the tension between technological efficiency and embodied wisdom, highlighting the vulnerability underlying modern culinary mastery. Once power returns, the algorithm quickly recalibrates, suggesting additional cooking time. But Selena chooses to trust her instincts instead. Her brisket emerges perfect, not because of algorithms, but because she understood the subtle signals of real cooking. Yet the diners streaming their experience label it low-carbon craft online, unaware of the complex ethical trade-offs made behind the scenes. Behind every bite lie hidden costs, carbon emissions, diesel fuel for backup generators, and unaccounted labour in the face of technological failure. Selena's story illustrates structuralism's practical power. It helps us see clearly the hidden frameworks shaping everyday decisions. Every culinary choice, whether embracing high-tech solutions or traditional methods, involves multiple ethical considerations and invisible compromises. Food becomes not just sustenance, but a statement about our values, our relationships to technology, community, and the environment. As our food systems grow increasingly digital and data-driven, these hidden complexities multiply. Structuralism prompts us to continually ask, who decides which forms of cooking and eating are considered sustainable, ethical, or authentic? Whose labour remains unseen, whose knowledge is valued, and who profits from our decisions? Through stories like Selena's, structuralism moves from theory into practice, urging us to acknowledge our own roles within these hidden networks, recognizing that each bite is a negotiation between innovation, tradition, ethics, and responsibility. In this complex landscape of culinary choices, accountability becomes the true flame we must tend. The binary between raw and cooked no longer simply describes food preparation, it defines ethical decisions about environment, labour, and culture. Whether it's cities debating gas stove bans to reduce emissions, communities arguing over genetically engineered ingredients, or restaurants deciding whether to source local produce or rely on energy-intensive refrigeration, each choice reshapes our collective story. Consider UNESCO's recognition of kimchi making as intangible cultural heritage. Initially an effort to protect tradition, it quickly turned contentious when EU regulators mandated pasteurization for health reasons, potentially sterilizing the very microbial life central to kimchi's authenticity. Similarly, venture-funded labs now patent microbes previously shared among communities, privatizing knowledge that once belonged to all. These seemingly technical regulations reveal underlying struggles for power and control, redefining authenticity, ownership, and even health. In these debates, structuralism provides clarity by helping us understand how choices are framed, who decides if kimchi must be pasteurized, who benefits from patented microbes, and who loses when traditional practices are displaced. Structuralism's binary framework, traditional versus modern, natural versus engineered, exposes the hidden relationships and tensions shaping food production and consumption. It reminds us that every culinary decision carries implicit ethical responsibilities. Yet structuralism also calls us toward practical action. It encourages mindfulness and transparency about where our food originates, how it reaches us, and who pays hidden costs. Every menu choice, every grocery purchase becomes a small political act, an opportunity to question prevailing structures and promote a fairer, more sustainable system. Ultimately, structuralism doesn't predict the outcomes of these complex negotiations. Instead, it equips us to see beyond immediate conveniences or cultural myths, reminding us to consider who holds power and whose voices remain unheard. By bringing hidden connections into view, whether carbon emissions, invisible labour, or cultural appropriation, we become better informed, more responsible eaters. Our collective task is to listen carefully, ask difficult questions, and understand the deeper significance of every bite. In doing so, we can rebalance the flame, ensuring warmth and fairness extend to all. Each phase has shifted the raw-cooked threshold, but none has erased it. Instead, the binary has bent, stretched, looped, refracted into gradients and metrics, but still pulses beneath our rituals, decisions, and myths. Cognition itself leans on such difference, and difference still sells, but entanglement reminds us every line bleeds. The loaf rises because bacteria, starch, heat, and time entangle. Remove one, and the crust fails. Likewise, every claim of mastery, every shortcut, every innovation leaks carbon, labour, memory. That VR steak depends on diesel generators. Net zero kimchi rides refrigerated trucks. Even Park Jin's ancestral ferment owes something to sea salt, mined far from soul. Recognising this doesn't paralyse choice, it deepens responsibility. When change unfolds as a continuum, the ethical burden shifts. We must ask not just what we accept, but where we pause the slide, and who must live with that decision. Cities weighing electric stove mandates, councils debating microbial licensing, communities scheduling blackouts under heat domes, all are redrawing the ancient grid. These are not technical adjustments, they are moral cartographies. Because if the grid is mutable, then so is justice. Accountability becomes the real fire we tend. The question is no longer whether raw or cooked wins, but who scripts the categories, who audits the cost, who inherits the smoke. Structuralism doesn't predict, it listens. It invites us to trace the crackle and ask, who gets fed, who goes hungry, and what the silence hides. And so the essay returns to the coals. But today the coals glow in lithium ions and induction rings, the smoke drifts as metadata across routers. Still, someone must taste. A bite of crust snaps, releasing algorithm, harvest, story, and sky gas. The eater pauses, feels the seams where those layers misalign, and invents a story to make the bite hold together. Tomorrow, another eater will feel different seams and tell a new story. In that endless retelling, raw and cooked, keep each other alive. Our task is to notice who is warmed, who stands in shadow, and how to share the flame. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Deeper Thinking podcast. This episode was digitally narrated by Holly, who helps bring our ideas to life. And thank you for your positive reviews on Apple Podcasts. They help us reach more people like you.